So it went well, and I developed a relationship with them, and then over the next year, I was able to work with their management and kind of guide them along my thought process towards prehab versus rehab. You don't ever want to have a player end up in a situation where they need PT because they're having so much pain that they can't play. That's like the worst case scenario, actually. I was trying to educate them that the best case scenario is we regularly do things intermittently every week and just kind of stay on top of this stuff, and your guys never lose any playtime over the course of a season.
So you said that you've been working with Cloud9 for 3 years, or just in esports?
No, just in esports about 3 years, but Cloud9 was my first team.
Nice.
Okay.
It was a big team to work with.
Yeah. I was very, very fortunate. They've been really just awesome people to work with and for. I'm not like a part of Cloud9. I'm contracted, so I've just been, working with them. So I'm not on Cloud9. Let's not mix that up. But actually, in that sense, it's also helped me a lot because that allows me to work with other teams as well. And they've been totally open with that. They're very cool with the fact that obviously I'm doing this as my business, and they trust me enough to not give any sort of like confidential information or talk to other teams in a competitive way. It's, my stance is purely about helping the players.
So this is going to be it's probably going to feel so weird when I ask this, but have you met Skadoodle?
Skadoodle? No, I haven't. He was no longer with Cloud9. I have worked a lot with other players from that legendary major roster. So I've worked with Tim, Automatic, Rush. I think I met Stewie one time, but he went to Liquid pretty quickly. Tim I'm actually really close with. I'm hoping to get him on one of these interviews soon. He said he'd be down when he's less busy. He just got re-signed to T1, so he's going to be really busy switching to Valorant now.
Oh, so he's replacing either Brax or AZK.
AZK, yeah.
It's interesting.
So he's really, really nice guy though. He's awesome. Good guy to work with.
I love that entire roster. That entire roster was like.
Yeah, and I mean, Will or Rush is still killing it. Like he's doing really well with Complexity right now.
Complexity just absolutely bodied Evil Geniuses yesterday.
Yeah. It was actually they're a really solid team.
I think Rush is IGLing while also entering, which is incredibly difficult. I mean,
yes, yeah.
I don't know how much you follow CS:GO, but
as one of the first games I really got into watching. I used to play CS back in like 1.6, and obviously the game has changed a lot. I tried, so I got out of PC gaming for like 8 or 9 years because I just didn't have a PC for a while. I was playing console. I was playing a lot of Xbox, and then I came back. And I was like, I want to build a PC again, like last year. So one of the first games I re-downloaded was CS:GO, and it's horrible. Like I can't do anything. It's so hard. And just even like silver elo players in that game now are so good compared to when I used to go to like PC banks and just kind of mess around with my friends.
You haven't played me, so you'll see just how bad silvers are.
I'm making the resurgence. I'm trying to get back into Valorant this year a little bit. I think I love the game.
You have just triggered Finn. You have just triggered him. He hates and despises Valorant with a passion.
Why?
Look, man, I'm not saying it's a bad game by any means. It just feels so slow.
Yeah, it's like you're ice skating and everything's a headshot, and
yeah.
Because I'm not good. I by no means, I know, because when I play CS:GO, I can't hit anything, and then when I play Valorant, I'm spraying and getting headshots. So
it's wild, and especially with the current meta just being like, you grab the frenzy, you grab the stinger, and then you're good for the rest of the match.
That's actually what it is. It's like, I feel like my KDA is better with a stinger than it is with a phantom. It's kind of ridiculous.
I think, what was it? Because I'm trying to learn Valorant because a football player from Iowa State plays Valorant, and I'm like, okay, I want to, connect with this guy in some way. So I think I had a frenzy for, I want to say 6 rounds. I ended up with like 12 kills.
Yeah, you're like, why even upgrade? Just sit on the gun. You'll never have eco problems. But I think it's I like watching Valorant. I think it is the game of the future. I mean, regardless,
it's fun to watch.
I feel like most people that don't like Valorant like CS:GO, and I understand that. I understand that there's this competition between the two games because it's been labeled as a CS:GO killer. I think that there's room for both, but the people that enjoy watching and playing Valorant are usually either previous CS:GO players or fans or pros, or people who left Overwatch because that just seems like a dying league. And so you kind of mix the two and you get Valorant, which is, supported by one of the biggest companies in the world with a proven track record of success in creating these international tournaments. And I think it's if you check all the boxes, it's going to be successful.
Oh yeah. And I mean, it is fun to watch. I really enjoy watching 100 Thieves because they have my boy Nitro.
Yeah. Oh,
and they've got Steel there.
Some of these signings, man, when Nitro left and went to Valorant, I mean, that was
devastated.
That was like the first really, really big tier 1 player that was like, he was at the top of his game in CS. And, it'd be like if Simple was to just drop,
Don't say that because
yeah.
But I mean, have you seen the clips of Tsai playing Valorant?
Oh, I haven't seen him play Valorant. I just watch a lot of his, CS still, but no, I haven't seen him play Valorant.
He filled in for a random tier 1 French org, and he ended up top fragging and like nearly doubled the other team's top frag.
I'm not surprised at all, actually.
Finn's favorite saying whenever we're playing CS is he always just likes to comment on the other team like, "You just Zywoo peeked me." There's always Zywoo peek.
Yeah. Tsai runs out like he's like in a freaking Lamborghini and just wide swings and then smacks you with an op.
Yeah. I mean, I find that, okay, so that's another like clear cut difference where if I pick up an op in CS, it's just a waste of money, like I'm just going to donate it to someone. But when the beta for Valorant came out, I picked up an op. I put up like, 3-4 kill map points. Like it was crazy. Like,
jeez.
Like, I don't know. It's just so much. I think it's just so much smoother in some ways, and it's a lot more forgiving with these hitboxes. I don't know what it is, but
no, I love because like I'm the worst sniper you'll ever find in Counter-Strike.
Yeah,
and like I'll readily admit that. But anytime I pick up the op in Valorant, I'm like, I get.
Yeah, yeah. I point and click heads. That's all I do.
I do like the Marshall. The Marshall's nice.
Yeah, it's very satisfying. I will say that getting a headshot in Valorant is so satisfying because it has that little explosion and you just see him drop. Like in CS, sometimes like I'll shoot and I don't realize I got a headshot, so I look at the little kill feed. I'm like, oh, I killed that guy. What? Like,
right? No,
I didn't even hear it. Yeah.
In Counter-Strike, the most satisfying thing is getting a double dink, where you immediately get 2 headshots in a row, and it's so hard because the animation of the head just kicks back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So getting that is just like impossible. But anytime you can, like I'm gonna retire. I hit my peak.
I should just go pro. How long have you been playing CS?
Oh geez, I want to say 9 years.
Okay, you've been playing for a long time then. Yeah. That's what rank are you?
What platform?
Oh, okay. So like, I guess you mean PC. Like.
Let's see. Matchmaking rank. I am.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, matchmaking. I've got I would say 4 global accounts, and
Oh
then
man.
an account in just about every rank except for I
Damn.
don't have one in silver. It's probably gonna be the one that I use to play with Jason.
Yeah. You gotta have your Smurf accounts just
Yep.
to hang out with your friends. I
That's-
play a lot of
that's-
League, so that's actually my main game. As I play a lot of League of Legends, and when I first last year, I got like 6 of my buddies to try it, and so I was jumping in games with them in norms and stuff, and I'm like, I'm not good, I'm like reasonably high silver. But when you go into a game where everyone's brand new, you just feel like a god. I'm like, I am Faker. Like I'm gonna 1v5 all these kids, and it's like, but it catches up really quick, once they get into decent level. But I imagine that's how like high elo players, when they come into my games, feel like too. Like, wow, everyone here is so bad. Like it's crazy. But,
yeah, no, it's League of Legends. League of Legends is a game that I have tried so hard to get into.
It's a mountain. Like you will be going uphill for a very long time.
Now I say that, but I love playing Dota.
Okay. That's funny because everyone I've talked to, League players, especially League pros, they refuse to play Dota because like it takes too long and it's way too complex. Like there's so much you have to know about Dota.
It's so wild. Do you remember when the double lift versus, well, I don't think that double lift ever responded to him, but like No Tail kept responding to double lift on Twitter when double lift was like, oh yeah, I hopped into a Dota match and I got like 60 kills and 2 deaths and it was over in 15 minutes.
Yeah, like how does that happen?
Yeah, and No Tail was like, hey man, we can play together and we'll see how it really goes. I'll even play League of Legends with you.
Yeah.
And No Tail, for those that don't know, No Tail is the most winningest esports professional of all time. He's won, I think it's 4 Dota majors and 2 internationals.
Wow. That's crazy. Winning 1 international, you're set for life. Like that's insane.
Winning 2, only one team's done it.
Yeah, that's crazy. That was not EG, right? It was
close.
I'm blanking on this. I know who this is too. Shoot. I don't follow Dota at all, but I remember reading
They have a
about
CSGO roster now.
Ah, man. I'm terrible. I feel terrible about this. It's not EG. It was
actually in Dota, it's EG's rival.
Yeah. Shoot. I feel like I have to look it up. All right, or just tell me. Who is it?
OG.
That's who. Yes, OG Esports. Yeah, that's insane. That's
Founded
so crazy.
by No Tail.
Yeah, that's awesome though. Is he still playing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's from that TI winning roster. It's him, Seb, the offlaner, and Tops in the mid laner that are left.
Yeah, I've tried watching Dota a few times, especially when the internationals on. Like, it's like, okay, that's such a hype event. I don't understand anything about what's happening, and the casters are going crazy. I'm like, this isn't League of Legends. Nobody's dying. I don't know what's happening. Like,
especially if you get OD Pixel. OD Pixel's like a rap god. The way that he talks.
Yeah.
He's just going off, and he.
Oh no!
Oh, he cut out.
Oh no, Jason froze.
You're stuttering there. Oh, hey, Nebraska Internet has returned to save Finn.
Oh no,
you're back. You are back.
Yeah. I respect casters who can hype an event and actually make it entertaining for people who don't watch esports. Like so much of these games, like, okay, so this is my issue with something like Overwatch League. I went to the very first season of Overwatch live because it was in Blizzard Arena and it's right down the street from me. And I was like, hey, awesome. There's live esports. I really want to go see this and see what it's about. I've never played Overwatch. I've never seen Overwatch. I went and watched and it was hype. Everyone was cheering. I was just cheering for when there were headshots because it was Widowmaker meta and it was actually entertaining. But I never actually knew what was going on. And I feel like, and I'm someone who plays a lot of games. So I kind of picked it up because announcers would talk about stuff. But then I was imagining if I was not into gaming, if I was just some random person and this was on TV, I'd be like, what is this? Like, what am I watching? Everyone's flying everywhere. There's colors, there's lights. It's like, I can't understand it. But, something like CSGO or Valorant or even League of Legends to some extent, you can just kind of pay attention to like, okay, well, this is 2 teams of 5. I understand that when someone dies, that's a big deal. And I understand the objective is to either, plant a bomb or defuse a bomb or the kill the enemy base. That's super easy. I think that's a prerequisite for any successful esport now. Like I think Overwatch had a lot of the infrastructure, but the game itself was not designed competitively. Like it doesn't favor like viewing and competition. So I don't know. That's my thing about Overwatch.
Yeah, Overwatch, like it's fun to play and it's fun to watch.
Out again.
Oh no. What is
man.
with my internet tonight?
Your internet's really hating you today.
Dude, my internet's like, this is something that you've been looking forward to all week. You don't get it.
Yeah, he rarely has problems. We've gone like the entire the past 4 weeks without problems.
Oh my word!
Hitches, and now it's like, oh, we got a doctor on. We got a doctor on our actual
So I want to ask, like, how'd you find me? Like, how'd you find me on Twitter?
That would be Finn. Finn is the one who he's the expert here on esports, and also he's he working to be a was it sports training, which I forget what it was, or he's frozen. He's frozen in time. No, he's he graduated with I think a degree in kinesiology, and he was working to go into sports fitness or something. I can't remember exactly.
Like athletic training.
Yeah, the deviation of athletic training is what he's doing. So like I guess you kind of fit basically the perfect what he was like.
Yeah, I majored in exercise science in college. So I did my degree in kinesiology with an emphasis in exercise science prior to doing my doctorate in physical therapy. So for my program, exercise science kinesiology was the basically the track to go to PT. So I kind of fell into it that way. But we did have a lot of athletic trainers as well in my major. And people who went from athletic training into PT as well.
Yeah. So I looked at, I wanted to make sure I was kind of ready, because normally we just kind of do these shows on the fly, but you're a doctor and I want to make sure I know who I'm talking to also. And so I saw that I think you did your grad studies at California State University, was it?
Yeah, USC. Yeah, University of Southern California.
Okay, you went to USC. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I hope I'm pretty approachable. I'm usually not like very stuck about. You don't have to call me Dr. Tsai. Okay. Like I very rarely tell patients that. But I do have a doctorate. I'm pretty down to earth though. Like I think that I'm a big gamer myself. I've been playing since I was like 5. I just love the culture and the community in esports. So I knew getting out of school that esports was going to be something I wanted to try to pursue, because I think there's not a lot of rehab specialists doing this. There's not a lot of people doing what I do in esports. And I think that it benefits a lot of players. My typical patients in my outpatient clinic are generally, your weekend warriors, or they're these 40 to 50-year-olds who work at a desk all day and have neck, back, shoulder, wrist issues. And, I was watching so many gamers on stage that were in these terrible positions and reading articles about how they're retiring because of injuries and stuff like that. I'm like, look, that's actually what I treat every day. I should just start working with them. So that kind of pushed me to, start doing some research into it and seeing, are there any PTs in esports? Are there people doing what I want to do in this space? And really, there's not many. There's a few that I've actually talked to. So like 1HP and some of those other, but it's a very, very open new field. And I think that me being fortunate enough to work with a very top tier organization right off the bat has really opened the door for me to start approaching other teams as well. And I'm just happy that these organizations are starting to value their players as people and as something that they should be investing in.
So how did you
back? By the way,
yeah, he is back. He's
welcome back. I'm glad you fixed the internet.
How'd you end up with Cloud9? Did they approach you, or did you approach them? How did that all come about? And
very,
how long ago was that?
Very lucky. So the clinic that I work, I'll kind of back all the way up. I started with this game plan out of school. Like, hey, I'm new PT, but I know what I want to do. I know I'm good at what I do, and I feel like I have enough passion to make this work. So I started an Instagram account, Respawn Therapy. You guys can follow that. It's basically got videos, things about common injuries gamers have, exercises that gamers can do to prevent a lot of these issues or treat some of these issues. I'm starting to put content from my Twitch stream on there. So like interviews, stuff like that, most about mentality and performance. And I was like, okay, if I get noticed, if I can get this Instagram account to, let's say, a few thousand followers, maybe some team will eventually see it and approach me. That was my game plan. I got my first job in Santa Monica at this clinic, and just randomly, one of the PTs there, she was the PT for TSM. And so she knew some people in the space. Obviously, she was working with the, TSM, and she was like, hey, I got this other team that wants me to come in, but because their PT is going on, maternity leave, but I can't do it. I don't have time. Do you want to go see them? Because I know you want to get in esports. And so I got an introduction to Jack and to the C9 team that way. And at first it was, I just went in to see a couple of the players who had some issues. And then as I developed a relationship with them over the next 6 months and kind of built some more trust with them, I was able to convince them that, hey, there's a lot of stuff you guys could be doing preventatively to reduce your risk of developing these issues and pains. Like, the goal should not be to get a player back from injury as soon as possible. The goal should be to prevent that injury from even happening. And so the next year, I had a really good conversation with the entire management staff, and they were like, hey, let's try it. Let's try bringing you in once a week, just preventatively try to treat all this stuff. And we had an outstanding year. Like the next 2 years, in the last couple of years, Cloud9 hasn't had a single player miss any time due to injury. And for the most part, they feel much better. They adopted this also as an entire program about health and wellness. So they brought in a personal trainer. They have, a chef cooking meals for them. They have a sports psychologist who's great. They have a book club. They're trying to approach player health and mental and physical wellness from the complete, like, everything around it. Like, let's attack it from every angle, and let's make sure that these guys have everything they need to play at their very best. And I think it's translated really well on stage.
They have a book club?
Yeah.
That's sick. That's sick.
So
I love that.
The sports psychologist, Gary, he encourages them to read certain books. And then so they'll read these books. And it's all like performance-based. So I think the first one they read was Atomic Habits, which is an outstanding book from what I hear. I haven't read it myself. I will. But basically, it's on my list already. I already have it downloaded. I just have to read it. But yeah, he made them all read Atomic Habits. So each week they would read a certain number of pages, and then they'd get together and they chat about it, and they talk about how to integrate these concepts into their team and into their schedule and into their habits. So, I mean, this is like something that's very, very common in traditional sports, right? But to most gamers, this is like new territory. It's like foreign language, like sports psych talking about teamwork and all this, like, how do you overcome stress? How do you deal with like discomfort, all this stuff? That's something that as gamers, you're not really used to hearing or having to deal with. But at the pro level, I think it's going to become a necessity.
I mean, especially with how big and how fast esports are growing. Just even my esport of choice is Counter-Strike, just because I started playing it my senior year of high school, and that's what I kind of was watching. But like the two most notable majors that I remember were the E-League majors, and just seeing the Fox Theater in Atlanta in 2017, just with this $1 million prize pool, and just how packed, and the fact that TBS, an actual cable, you didn't have to have internet to watch it. You didn't have to see it on stream or on Twitch or YouTube or anything. So this is a big deal, I think, for me. And to see it grow, and I looking at these, the stages are getting bigger too. So I don't really know how, like, if they have any sound isolation or anything, but just I think in the back of their heads, like, they got to have that, we're playing for $1 million. The prize pool's probably gone up since then. I don't really know for sure. But
I mean, like, you look at Fortnite, right? Their first World Cup, Booga won 30 million or whatever it was. Like,
are you serious?
16 million. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So I think that has to be in the back of your mind. Like, I'm playing for this. I can't screw up.
Yeah. And from what I understand, so they have noise canceling headphones, and then they have their internal like comm headphones, but it doesn't drown it out. They're like, when you get into an arena and there's 100,000 people like chanting your name or whatever, it's insane. It's a rush, and it's just like being on any NBA court or NFL stadium where you got that many people screaming. It's wild. Like, I love live events. I can't wait for all this pandemic to be, stuff to be over so that we can get back to that, because there's nothing like it. I'm so fortunate to to live literally across the street from Riot Studios. So I would go every weekend and watch all my guys play. And it's just so much fun. Like,
yeah,
so cool.
You're talking about that arena aspect. I think it was like my junior year of high school. I remember seeing for the first time in a Sports Illustrated article, they covered esports. And I think it was a league tournament in South Korea, and I think they were talking about how like they sold out their Olympic stadium.
It always sells out.
Yeah.
So League Worlds always sells out. This year, if COVID hadn't happened, so they're actually doing it next year. They actually rented China's Bird's Nest Stadium, which is where the Olympics was held. 400,000 people. It was already sold out.
Oh man.
But, yeah. It's huge. It's insane. Like,
it makes ESL 1 Cologne look small.
Yeah. Yeah. I do. Okay. I'll say this. CSGO has some of the best stage production out of any esport. Those ESLs are amazing. The Blast series when they're in Europe. I went to a Blast series out here and it was not nearly as good.
Blast LA.
Yeah.
They
had to downsize. They downsized. There was a lot of dropouts. There's all this stuff, but it was still pretty cool to see like, FaZe up there and like, it was like they were all on the same stage, which is actually kind of different.
Hey, now there's NA Pride in FaZe Clan. Let's go.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for the sub, Flame Cloud. Appreciate you dropping your prime. So I still love CSGO. CSGO will always have a special place in my heart. I feel that as an esport, this is why I say that there's room for it. In addition to Valorant, is because you got two different demographics. There are the hardcore CSGO fans who will never ever leave CSGO, and I'm all for that. The CSGO tradition and legacy is so deep. Like you can't get over some of these events that CSGO's had. It's just legendary stuff. Like the whole Boston Major, like that's still such an epic esports moment. It was like the US men's hockey team beating Russia the first time. It was like,
oh yeah,
it's like on that level, right? But I'm really really excited that there's new games coming out that are going to set just as many legendary events and new history, and it's just really exciting. I love that people are getting more into it. I love that investors are looking at it more seriously. Like it's allowing for the people who've been here this whole time who love it to really see it flourish. And like, man, this is like what I dreamed of when I was a kid. I tell that to these guys all the time when I work with them, like all the pros. I'm like, you guys realize like you're living like my dream when I was 12. I'm just too old. Like I was born about 10 years too early for all of this. But yes, it's really, really cool to see all this happening.
So you say that, but like, I don't know, like now that you mentioning that you're 10 years too early, I can't help but think that your first esport game had to have been Quake then. You're not that old though, are you?
StarCraft,
okay.
StarCraft was the original.
Yeah, StarCraft 1.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing though, is like back then, I never played competitively. Like I didn't get into the grind of like, I'm going to climb the ladder. I was never that good. I just liked it. And then I was always thinking in the back of my mind, like, this is such a competitive game. I wish there was like a way people could make money on this. Or, I always heard about those underground Halo tournaments. Like one of my friends in college was a sponsored Halo player at one point, but it was probably, he got like a pack of Red Bulls and they paid for his entry fees to tournaments. That was basically it.
Yeah.
But he was on a team. They had a jersey. But back in the day, it was like everyone had like, there's there's definitely underground Street Fighter tournaments, stuff like that. But it was all locally arranged. People would get online and like AIM each other, like, hey, let's meet up this day, and everyone just shows up and plugs their controller in and battles it out. But to see to level now, I mean, with internet streaming, like streaming has made it just absolutely incredible the reach you can have. To talk about League of Legends again, the Worlds, right? Last year's Worlds, I think it was 7 million concurrent viewers or something. It was something absolutely insane. 70 million. It broke every record. Basically, no sporting event has ever had that big of a concurrent viewership. Like, and it's just one game. That, and in all honesty, not that many people like League of Legends compared to the entire spectrum of what esports is. It probably takes up like 20-30%. It's not like the majority, I would say.
The only record that I think that Worlds last year didn't end up breaking was the record that E-League Boston still holds with the most concurrent viewers on one single stream.
Yeah. I think because with bandwidth issues, like they split them into so many streams, but
yeah, Riot's got like 30 streams.
Yeah. Flame Jamie's friend subscribing. Oh, hey, tell Jamie thanks. Jamie is my fiance's brother. Super nice guy. He's also a heavy gamer, so he's so stoked. Like when she told him, like, oh, Jordan's working with some professional gaming team or something. He's like, what do you mean? Like, what team? She's like, Cloud9. He's like, what? Like, and I keep telling her she doesn't do video games or any of that stuff, and she's always like, well, why are you doing all this? I'm like, do you understand? This is like me coming home and telling you, hey, I got a job working with LA Rams. Like that, it's like that big of an organization. She's like, I don't know, but it's so we're not 100% there yet. It's not totally mainstream.
No. It's getting there though. It is definitely getting there.
Oh, for sure.
When TBS picked up, I don't know if any other. I think ESPN has also picked up. I think what was it? They picked up a MOBA. I don't remember which one it was.
Yeah, so ESPN picked up Blizzard's Heroes of the Storm, which is basically like League of Legends, but it's like StarCraft characters and stuff. And they basically dropped it. ESPN actually just dropped all of their esports writers this year. I don't know if you guys were aware of that.
I think I heard about it actually.
Yeah, they basically shut down their department.
Yeah, I think it's because of the COVID. Well, ESPN's kind of been going downhill for some years now, but the COVID thing didn't really help out either.
Yeah, absolutely. So when they have to do cuts, for them, esports and gaming is still a reach. It's still something that they want to get into because they see the potential in it, but it's not their moneymaker like basketball or football is. So I think if you had to cut somewhere, you got to cut the esports. And I understand it. I do think it's short-sighted, and I think that it's going to bite them in the ass later. Like they're going to probably regret that. But because now what's happened is all of that talent got jobs elsewhere. And so now esports media is so decentralized that they could have been the go-to esports, news channel, but instead they basically shut it down, and now it's going to go everywhere else, and there's going to be some other company that picks it up. I remember, when they first launched, I was actually reading a lot of ESPN esports. I had that tag on my ESPN app, like follow stuff, because it was nice that you could get news from a variety of games that way. They had like Fortnite plus CS:GO plus League, and it was nice to have it all condensed. But
and I was surprised to actually see that on the app when that showed up. One time randomly, I was just browsing their app and like add your favorite sports. I'm like, oh, they got esports on there now. I haven't really opened the ESPN app in a while, so I didn't really know that. I don't know if that tab is still there or not, but
no, I think it is, but it doesn't get updated anymore. And also the ESPN app is just garbage now. I feel like with COVID, like it's so laggy and it just randomly shuts off on me. I'm like, all right, I barely ever use it anymore.
Yeah, it's. Yeah, I only use it for notifications, and even then, they get notifications wrong too. They will misspell teams because I follow the Premier League. Everton's my team, and they misspelled it. They spelled it like Everton. It was real. I was real bad.
Do you not have an editor?
I was really thinking like you really like can't like spell this right. That's a problem.
And it sucks. I feel like, soccer gets a lot of that too, where it's like so, soccer fans are hardcore fans of their sport and their teams, like more so than any U.S. fans of any teams here. Soccer fans are passionate.
Yeah.
It's a different level. I don't think people understand that here, but if you don't really put the effort in and you just kind of half-ass an article and you throw it together, like you can tell, like, people can read it and understand like, hey, this is just them doing lip service to the game. Like they don't actually care. It's not like you read an article about any football team or any baseball team on ESPN and it's like, the most polished, like put together, hyperlinked, like
And I'm wondering, because I didn't actually see the esports on the app, but I'm wondering if it's anything like soccer where they welcome back, welcome back again.
Dude, my internet straight up is like, you were so excited for this. This is like the greatest moment of your short life. No,
this is not the greatest moment of your short life.
Dude, I was so excited for this. I was like, because I'm trying to become an athletic trainer.
Okay.
Like at the very least. And potentially, like physical therapy is super interesting to me too. being in like that general field.
Well, we can talk about that. Do you want to get into working with pro teams?
I want to get into working with whoever will hire me. I just want to make a difference in someone's life, man.
Do you want to work with athletes? You don't do
Personally,
an ATC.
I think that would be the best. Like that's the easiest way for me to get.
Say yes. No, you could say yes. I mean, you don't want to get an ATC without wanting to work with athletes. That doesn't make sense, right? So if you get your ATC, I'll give you a couple tips. The PT route to get into athletics is very difficult. And that's because ATCs run the show and they don't really want PTs coming into that space. So if you get your ATC and then you get your PT, you're a much better candidate for it, but you're almost better just getting your ATC, networking, getting a master's in athletic training and then going that route. If you really, really want to work with athletes, that's usually a better route than trying to go the PT route because there's just so much competition and ATCs don't want PTs taking that slice of their pie, which is basically their whole career. And it's a hard sell because a lot of teams are bringing PTs in now because technically the PT has a higher degree of education. We have a lot more knowledge base in terms of like anatomy, physiology, all that stuff. They even made a specialty in physical therapy called SCS, which is the Sports Clinical Specialist. And so it's supposed to bridge that gap between PTs and ATCs. But in reality, teams are still a little bit more traditional with it, and ATCs are the boss when it comes to sports and athletic rehabilitation. So if I was to give you advice, I'd say probably don't pursue the PT unless you want to get into rehab. I would just do the ATC. PTs, I'm going to bash my own profession now. PTs in general are making less every year because reimbursements for insurance are going down. So it's getting harder and harder to actually just do our job. And two, the cost of education is increasing every year. So it's this inverse relationship of I'm spending more and more money to get paid less and less, even though I love my job. It's really, really hard to justify spending anywhere from $70,000 to $250,000 for an education and then come out of school getting paid $70,000, $60,000 a year. Like it's brutal, you're going to be paying off that debt for a long time. So if you can go the ATC route, finish undergrad, hopefully land an internship somewhere good, get a job somewhere good. They might even pay for you to go get your master's. Like that's a much cleaner route. And then you can actually work with athletics that way. I know that he was talking about being a soccer fan. Are you a fan of any other sports, or are there any sports you want to get into particularly?
Oh, easily baseball. Baseball would be like the absolute dream.
Okay. I actually know some people, but if you like finish your ATC and all that, shoot me a message, shoot me an email. I can see about connecting you with some people. So I know one of my mentors in school is the head PT / athletic trainer for the Angels, as well as he does a lot of the spring training stuff every year. So I can maybe help you out with that. At least connect you with like talking to some people and get some advice. Biggest thing.
Go ahead.
No, the biggest thing I've learned in doing any of the stuff that I do is just put yourself out there and ask. You will get so much more than you expect. And if not, if they can't give you an internship or job, hey, your name is now in their mind. And you just have to try to give people value. Just talk to them like, hey, I would love to do anything I can to learn as much as I can. Is there any way I can shadow you guys or, just chat with you for a few minutes or anything like that? And you will get very far,
Sure. Because right now, I've got my degree in kinesiology with the option in exercise science because at Iowa State, the athletic training program for the undergraduate was cut just after my freshman year, and I didn't make it into the program.
Dang.
So,
okay.
So I stayed in kinesiology because I was like, I love this field. This entire field is just fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And I was the same major.
I was like, I love exercise science, and all the things in physiology are really cool. So I did that, certified personal trainer. Started my own business, which was a mistake because that's so expensive.
It depends how you do it, but yeah, it definitely, you should get advice and get someone to counsel you on that stuff. I found that out too.
Yeah, I was like, I have people asking me to help them with this stuff, and I'm like, I have no way to I guess, really, if the government comes knocking, I don't really have accountability if I'm just like, yeah, they're just paying me and yeah. So more than anything, that was that way I could be taxed, because I hired a lawyer service to help me out with getting it all set up.
Yeah.
Which I think was the smartest thing I could have ever done.
always
do that without a lawyer.
And hiring someone to do it the right way for you. I'm a big believer in that. So like when I started my business, I had a CPA, put together the entire thing for me and just made sure that all the boxes were checked. And he's like, make sure that your legal stuff is in check, in order. I mean, it costs a few $100, but like that's worth it if you don't have to deal with like, I don't know, all sorts of legal entanglements later, which costs thousands to fix.
Yeah.
That's never good. And then you might have to pay fines and all this stuff. So even now, like I will pay someone to do my taxes, because if it was just me making money and then doing that, it's pretty easy, right? You can do your own taxes on QuickBooks or Quicken or whatever it is. But when you start running a business and you start having all these other forms of assets and like what's deductible, what's not, like it gets so complex. I'm just like, I'll pay the guy a couple $100 and he'll save me thousands more than I probably would have gotten myself.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's just not worth it, but yeah. Are you still looking to start your own business now, or?
Well, I've got it started. I'm incorporated.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it's still running. You said it was a mistake, but it's still going.
Well, it was a bit of a mistake.
It's a moral mistake, I think, is what he's saying.
It was a monetary mistake.
No, we'll say it. How long have you been in operation?
Officially, I think 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're not even ready yet.
I just get paid once a month for my full-time job is all. So I'm sitting here with like $30 to my name, and I'm like, yeah.
Did you talk to anyone about your business plan and how you were going to calculate for estimated profit? Like, do you have a number for how you would be able to make profit?
I do have a number.
Okay.
A number for, I assume you mean like when I'll be in the black, right?
Yeah. So like if it's a personal training business. Yeah. Okay. So you would just basically have like, how many people do I need to see in order to break even? And then how many would I need to make the profit I want to make?
Right. Yep. So right now, because of COVID, I can't train people in person, but I've opened it up to online training, where it's just I give the program, but then I also have the option they can schedule coaching sessions once a week online, through a call.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's actually a very good business plan right now, given that everyone is working out from home and everyone wants a trainer and there's no gyms. This is actually one of the rarest opportunities to be a personal trainer. Gyms can't open right now, which is crazy. Like, it's such a huge opportunity if you can hit that hard, if you can advertise it well and get into a more regular schedule with certain people. Like, that's a huge opportunity.
And I'm selling it right now because I'm new, and I've talked to multiple people that are in like the actual business, and a lot of them were saying right now, because of the plan that you've got set up, sell it as just a flat fee for now. And then once you've built up that clientele base where they can vouch for you and that word of mouth advertising starts taking hold, then you can start charging, more of a scaling rate, for each session you pay, this much, and we just kind of go session by session. On top of, you can sell, non-personalized plans. You can do so much more with it. And I was like, okay, that'll make sense. So right now, I think I need to sell one more plan, and I'll have made my money back on what I spent incorporating, which is great.
Do you do any like trial sessions for free?
That is really, really good idea. Right now,
so
right now that's no? Sort of
you absolutely should offer work for free.
Right now, what I've got is a consultation call.
Okay.
Where
good idea too.
Luckily the people that I've had currently, I'll tell them, $25 consultation call for the little bit of like stuff that I have to do beforehand, mostly just kind of covering what would be essentially labor costs. And they're usually like, yeah, that seems pretty fair.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good. So this is something that I got as advice too when I was kind of starting stuff up is if you really want to explode your reach and your awareness quickly, offer a lot of stuff for free when you have time to do it. Because later on, your time is money, right? Like, so for example, like for me in December, I was offering free consultations via Discord or, online for any streamers who wanted to just chat. And I think I did like 35 of them, 40 of them. So just chatting with people, giving them basically a free consultation with physical therapists. And a lot of them found it very valuable. And so what it really aimed at doing too was one, to help them. I can usually get a lot done in one call that I don't have to see them very much after that. But then it helps so that they tell other people like, hey, I met with this person. They really helped me. If you have issues, you should go check them out. Or in your case, hey, I met with this trainer. He was really, really good. We had one session. I really liked it. I'm probably going to book again. You should check him out. And like, if you can just get one or two of those people to sell one or two of those things to other people, you've already quadrupled your number of clients off of a free call or one free session.
That is definitely something that I hadn't thought about at all.
Yeah. And
as you can tell, I'm pretty new to podcasting, being a business owner.
we decided to take on a lot of things all at once.
I love it. When people ask me, like, how long do you think I've been doing this? I've been streaming for a month.
Really?
Like, I've been podcast for like 2 months, 3 months. Just chatting with people. I started really hitting LinkedIn and Twitter like November, December last year because I was like, I had all this free time because of COVID. I need to build my brand. I need to network more. And I've been doing the esports stuff for a little bit, but it wasn't very well known. And now I've spoken at a few conferences online. I've done all this stuff. Like it's just about putting yourself out there, like I said, and just not being afraid to tackle stuff. I took on my first business. I own the PT clinic that I work at. I took that on my first year out of school, and it was overwhelming. And I lost a lot of my own personal money. Putting it into it to make it survive. I've taken huge amounts of loans just from family who helped me. And luckily now with like the government loans, EIDL, PPP loans, all that stuff. But it's just part of the process, like you can't learn to be a business owner through a class. You have to just do it. And it sucks. But it's an adventure. And I think that you also get a lot out of it. At the end of the day now, when I think about what I could do in the future, I'm like, there's zero chance I'm just going to go work for someone 40 hours a week ever again. Like, that's just not going to happen. Like I never, ever want to go back to that. And it's crazy because I never would have thought that until I got out of that. So if you guys are, how old are you? Like 20, 21?
21.
You guys are of an age.
Fair warning. I'm not. I don't work in the life sciences at all. I'm an engineering student. So like, this is like really far. It's kind of weird because my mom is a physical therapist assistant, and my freshman roommate was he was in the athletic training. He was trying to go to school to be an athletic trainer. But like I'm just this odd man out of just this. Hey, you're an electrical engineering student.
Yeah, but no, I mean. Regardless of what your profession is or what your study is, I think the concepts of entrepreneurship and doing what you want, like that's really what it is. So you have to have passion in something. I think that it's 2021 in this day and age, if you don't have passion for what you're doing, you're wasting your time. Like there's nobody who should just go grind 9 to 5 and live for the weekends anymore. If there's so much opportunity. They said that due to this COVID pandemic, so many people lost their jobs, but were given some sort of government assistance. I saw a trend where there's like twice as many businesses that started up this last year than in the last 10 years. Like it's crazy because people have been forced into a situation in which they were like, hey, I don't have a job. I can't get a job. What am I going to do? Oh, why don't I try pursuing my passions? And that's actually a wild concept. But, maybe it took something like a pandemic to strip away some of that safety net and force people to actually look inside, what do I want to do? Now that I've taken away everything I have to do and everything I should be doing, all that's left is what do you want to do? And then you turn that into something you can do. So in your case, I don't know you at all, but it sounds like, if you have any entrepreneurship, you should definitely pursue it. You guys are young enough where the mistakes you make now are not going to last. They just won't. Like when I was 21, I was not even in college yet. So you have a lot of time. And believe me, I was much more broke after college than you are now. So, I mean, it's just a matter of like understanding that you have a very, very long time. You don't need to be rich when you're 26. I think what you need to do is find your direction for when you're 30. If you're I'm 34 now. I just turned 34 a couple weeks ago. And I'm much happier in this last year than I ever have been in the last 10 years. Because I actually found something I really enjoy doing. And I feel that I'm motivated to wake up every day. I'm motivated to put time into stuff now. And you don't get that without experimenting and unfortunately without losing. You have to take those hits. So I'm ecstatic for you. I think that, you doing this early on and just eating the crap sandwich that is owning a small business for the first year is going to set you up so much better though for the long term, because you're going to, let's say a year from now, you're going to look back and be like, oh, I remember when I had $30 to my name and couldn't go and buy, and I had to decide between buying the sandwich or filling up my gas tank. And it sucks. It really does. But it's also teaching you a lot of stuff as long as you take it as a lesson and not as this is terrible. Woe is me. Why am I doing this? I'm just going to quit. You have a plan in place, and that's the most important thing. If you have a number in mind, that's why I ask you that. If you have a business plan in place, you have a number in mind, you know what you have to do to hit it. It's all up to you just to get there. Because once you get there, you already know, hey, this is going to work, right? If you have 100 clients a month, you don't have to worry about anything else. You don't have to worry. You can just choose what you want to make. The other piece of advice, though, is I would highly encourage you to grandfather all of your current clients, meaning that don't raise their rates ever.
Right. That was kind of the plan on that.
Yeah.
Because and right now all of the clients that I've got are personal friends that are like, hey, I'd like to, get into fitness, and I figured I could help out a friend at the same time. And I'm like, that is one of the most meaningful things that you could ever do.
Yeah. Yeah. People who support you, you got to support them. Mm-hmm. And I'm a big believer in that. In the end, when you're a business person, everything is sales. That's the first thing. No matter what industry you're in, everything is sales. And then the second thing is everything is about building relationships. It's not about selling someone something that they don't want. It's about creating the want for what you have. And then they'll pay whatever you want them to.
You hear that, EA? You hear that?
Not EA.
Well, we want what we don't have. It's just that we had it in last year's FIFA game.
Okay.
And then the year before that, and the year before that, and the year before that.
And that's you never want to create a situation too where people we can talk about games again. There's certain games that come out like Call of Duty, right? Where everybody, they're going to buy it and it's going to be a hit. But then why do you keep putting crap out? Because it's just going to disappoint people. And then you never want a customer to buy something and then feel let down after they buy. Regret is the worst thing someone could feel after buying something. It's I've had that so many times. I'm like, why did I spend money on this? And then, you don't create customers. So anyway.
Everything that you just said right there, I'm in the back of my head, I probably was thinking something along all of those lines, but you said it in a way that's just 100% to the point. It's look, man, I get it. It sucks. But right now is the best time. And I'm yeah, because right now I'm with my parents.
Yeah.
I've got opportunities here, so I may as well.
You don't have kids, right?
Nope.
not that I've known this man for a few years now, and if he didn't tell me that he had kids, we might have to call this podcast quits. I trust you to tell me these things.
Even now, I'm engaged. We don't have kids or anything. I have a dog, but
that's a kid.
Yeah, he's almost worse sometimes. To be fair, the risks that I can take right now are much higher because I don't if everything went to crap, I lose everything. The worst case is I do have to go get a job and I do have to work for someone. That's fine. The safety net's not bad. If I had some more responsibilities, I have a baby that I need to pay for, that adds so much stress, and that decreases your ability and your tolerance for risk. Like you can't jump into quitting your job and starting a business if you have a family to take care of, right? Like that's much riskier. So like I said, I think you guys are in that age range where you can get away with a lot of stuff. And so you should try to get away with as much as you can in terms of like, you know, just trying things out, take those risks, you know?
So I have a question that kind of relates to, I would say PT stuff.
Sure.
What do you think of the $1,500 Logitech gaming chair? Do you think that's worth it in the slightest?
I mean, here I have to be kind of careful here because I actually have some projects in the works that are still somewhat confidential. But I think that the ideal gaming chair is one that has obviously ergonomics in mind, but as much customization as possible. Every single person is different. And one concept that I think a lot of gaming chairs are missing right now is that perfect ergonomics, as according to research, is not how people play games. You have to design a chair that will accommodate the way that people play games. And so as a physical therapist, obviously, I think that ergonomics is a piece of the pie, but it's not the end all. You could have a perfect chair. And if you sit in that thing for 8 hours without stretching or exercising, you're going to feel like crap after. It doesn't matter. It just decreases the amount of stress. So I think that, is it worth it? Depends on what you mean by worth it. Like if everything is variable and everything is subjective, right? If I was making 20 million a year, yeah, sure, that's worth it. That's not that much. If I'm making 30,000 a year, that's like a tenth of my salary for the year. That's a lot. like that's a huge investment. So can you get by with a cheap chair? Yes. But it has to have certain features. It has to have certain points of adjustability.
I got you one up. Like, you know, I got this. I got
There
this.
you go. No, I would highly recommend armrests. But
definitely.
So I just think that, okay, there's certain features. We can talk a little bit about this, the details of it. You want to make sure that obviously the back adjusts. The one feature that I see that almost no chair has that I think every chair needs is the ability for the seat to adjust up and down like this as a tilt. Because have you ever played a game where you're like super into it and you scoot all the way to the very front of your seat because you want to be leaning forward? And if you sit in the back of your seat, you can't do that, right? If the seat just declined about 15 degrees, you could actually sit in it comfortably and lean forward. Like it's such a simple thing, but almost no office chairs do it. And they've actually done research on this. There's been chairs that came out with like people like kneeling. You've seen those. But yeah, the research shows that by doing that, it allows you to open up your hip flexors, which takes some of the stress off your lower back. And also it engages more core muscles. So you actually passively will start using your abdominal stabilizers in a way that's more natural. Most pro gamers can't, like they literally can't play lean back like this because it takes you physically out of the game. And then that takes you mentally out of the game. You've seen it all the time, like especially CSGO, you know, their monitors like here. That's how you got to fight people. If you can see the pixel, then you can for sure hit it. Like
you got to make sure you're having 600 frames per second too.
Yeah, you got to look, man. You got to be playing with your nose in the monitor. You got to be playing on stretched, and you got to be getting all the frames.
Yeah, it's all about frames. Yeah, it's like 60 hertz versus like 140. You're not going to hit anything at less than that. So, no, I think that the chair is a piece of the puzzle. It's not the complete thing. And as much as chair companies, you know, like Herman Miller, you know, I guess, you know, you said it was Logitech, you know, all these companies.
Yeah, it was Logitech and Herman Miller did a collaboration.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. The spine.
Yeah,
it's really cool looking. Okay, so here's the thing about that too. In my opinion, that's very gimmicky. It looks cool, which is always a seller, but there's no like I don't understand the theory of creating a chair that perfectly conforms to the human spine outside of the human spine. You know, like there's actually very little research to back that would be any sort of useful. And it also implies then that you have to keep your back aligned to the back of the chair the entire time you play, which again, nobody plays like that. Like, you know, you'd have to have everything in contact with it. So it doesn't make sense to me that, you know, you would. So this is something that comes up in PT a lot, is about context. Research needs context. So if you have a research article that says, if you have this style of chair, you have the least amount of pressure on the lumbar discs. That's a very specific statement. First of all, there's a couple assumptions there. First is that the lumbar discs with more pressure equals back pain. That's not necessarily true. The second concept is that people will stay in this position when they play. That's for sure not true. So contextually, this research actually means nothing. And so I think that's the big loss, is that I'm actually trying to work. I am working with this company now as a consultant to like bring this kind of information to them of like, how do you create context around the research in order to design around it? How do you guide design in a way that's actually logical? And I think that's lacking right now. And everything I've seen in gaming chairs so far has been lacking that. They don't actually think about the gamer. They either have gamers designing chairs, which is not a good idea, because they just look crazy and they're like not that functional, or they have engineers designing chairs who aren't really gamers. Like it's this horrible collision of like. And then, and this is actually funny too, because I know this is what they're doing to try to bridge that gap. You know what they're doing? They're asking pro players, what do you want in a chair? The average pro player has no idea what they want for breakfast. Like they know the game. Like they don't actually understand biomechanics. They don't understand what they should be doing. Half of these players, it's like, I'm trying to train them to have basic healthy habits. How can you then ask them to tell someone else how to be a healthy person as a pro player? There's this mismatch. You're asking the wrong professional. In regular sports, that'd be like asking a professional basketball player, hey, what is the best way to train in order to, shoot a free throw? And they might have a good answer for how they do it, but they weren't the ones that trained that, right? They had a coach.
It'd be like asking them about their shoes.
Right. They don't design the shoe. It'd be like, right. What would you want in a shoe? Like, I don't know. Like, I want it to stay on my foot and not make me slip. Like, the
most I've ever seen a player have input on a shoe was when Kobe Bryant tore his Achilles tendon. He asked for them to, because and the Lakers are special in that their strength and conditioning coach has to be an or a certified athletic trainer as well. And that's just them, the Trailblazers, and the Suns that do that. And the strength and conditioning coach was telling him how, he was going to have to be wearing these, big, heavy braces because of his Achilles tendon. And so he said to Nike, he was like, give me high tops.
Yeah.
They're like, you mean like a Chuck Taylor type high top? And he was like, no, I need this thing to go up to my calf.
It's like
I need to lace it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also, like, personally, biomechanically, I don't know why any basketball player doesn't play in high tops. Like it doesn't make sense. Like those
I've seen a lot of high school football players, receivers mostly, break their ankles wearing high tops just cutting.
Oh, okay.
Like the traditional
world is just such a mess with like old school meeting like new research. Like there's so much stuff they do that's
When I was in the pre-athletic training program, we had like a 2-week unit on shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really cool because we got to go down to the biomechanics lab and watch one of the professors down there just take a hydraulic press and smash a Nike running shoe a bunch of times to test the durability. But he was talking about how like it's more common to see low tops for like skilled positions in any sport that have to do a lot of cutting,
like soccer cleats
or tennis.
Yeah. Whereas if you need the extra he used football as his biggest example, because he was like, whereas if you need stability, think a receiver versus a lineman. Receiver needs to be agile. They need to be able to move like all over. If you can see them, they're not doing their job. It's like, but a lineman needs to be a wall. They need all the stability. So they're gonna be wearing high tops. They're gonna have a brace over, on their ankle inside their high top shoe. They're gonna have their ankle spat, and then they're going to be wearing like an ACL brace on both legs, on top of probably having their knees taped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean USC's entire O-line has to wear double knee braces. That's just the school rule. There's been so many ACL tears that are so preventable because of someone falling into someone's knee that it's it's ridiculous. But yeah, I think that the gaming space, we're starting to see that more. I mean, I've had so many questions about mouse fit, about table height, about chair height. Mouse fit's a big deal, actually. If you have a mouse that's too small, what you end up doing is overstressing some of the small contractile muscles in your hand.
Oh, that's fair.
I've seen a lot of people with muscle strains here because they death grip their mouse and it's tiny. I've seen a lot of people use mouse buttons get de Quervain's, which is a tendon issue on the outside of their thumb because they keep clicking their mouse buttons like this.
Really?
Ergonomics is, you're going to see better and better mouse designs hopefully soon. There's just there's so much stuff out there that hasn't really been explored yet because there hasn't been a need. And now that, I see esports as a platform for gaming as a whole. So my concept has always been, I want to help gamers. I don't ever say I just want to help professionals because I think that's too narrow a scope. I want to help gamers, and esports and professional teams are the face of gaming. So I'm using them kind of as a platform to show what I can do to help people in general. And the really interesting thing about gaming and esports is that I've been saying this a lot lately, but the mechanical stress on the human body between an amateur or a novice gamer and a professional gamer are almost identical. Unlike traditional sports, a high-level soccer player is undergoing such different stresses than like if you were to go play soccer with your friends at the park, like it's a very different mechanical load, right? That guy's like sprinting way faster, he's getting hit harder, he's cutting harder, kicking the ball hard. Everything is just magnified. In esports, if you look at a professional gamer, they might be doing it better than you, but their actions and their actual way that they're playing is identical to how you play in terms of mechanical demand, right? The amount of force and stress on your tissues and joints is almost identical. And so a lot of the work that I do with pros is identical to what I would do with an amateur versus the work that I would do with a professional football player is very, very different than the work that I would do with a weekend warrior who wants to play football, So I think that's really interesting because then there's a lot more parallel there.
Right. So you brought up mouse fit. I want to know your opinion. What in your opinion is, I'm not going to say best because there is no best,
that's the first concept. Best.
I mean, I used the Logitech G305 for a year. One of the best mice that I've ever used. And right now I use the SteelSeries Sensei 10. Okay. One of the best mice I've ever used. I could go back to the G305 anytime and I'd be okay. But what is...
For most people, it's just about fit. It's just about does it fit your hand? Some people have bigger hands, some people have smaller hands. If you have a big hand, you can't use a small mouse. I've actually seen this in a player at a pro level where he has pretty big hands and he was using a kind of small mouse. And he's like, man, my thumb is killing me. I don't know why. I've been, he's been playing forever. And he's like, since I got to this new team that gave me this mouse because, sponsors and all that. So he switched to his mouse and he was getting muscle strain because he had to hold his mouse so tight. Like if you have a good mouse fit, it should just fit in your palm and everything should be relaxed. It should actually conform so that you're in a more neutral position. If it's too small and you're pinching like this, or it's too big and you have to really grip it with your fingers, all of that just creates abnormal stress and it's unnecessary stress. That's really what it is. And with the placement of mouse buttons, it just depends. Like if you feel like you constantly have to reach for something, odds are you're creating undue stress on that tendon. So I think that mouse fit it's not a huge deal yet, but depending on the level and the quantity of how much you play, it could be a big deal. So, if you're really grinding, if you're one of those World of Warcraft, I want to get to the final stage in the first night type people, and you're going to play for 18 hours straight, your mouse fit will be much more important than somebody who's going to play a few hours at a time.
Sure.
So what about Mousepad then, as far as width and length and width of Mousepad?
Yeah, it depends what you play. So this is the difference is that a lot of different games have different demands. Most FPS players, CSGO, Valorant, all that stuff, Fortnite, they play with lower sensitivity, so they actually use bigger sweeping motions, especially with flicking. It's really hard to do an accurate wrist flick because if you have really, really high sense and you flick and it goes across, you're 180ing, it's really hard to be accurate and precise. So most of them play on a slightly lower settings. You'll see them make these big flicking movements, so they need a larger mouse pad. League of Legends players do everything with their wrist. You very rarely need to have that pinpoint pixel accuracy. So they play on a much higher sensitivity and they actually barely hold their mouse. I see a lot of them hold it with their fingertips and do this, just move it with their fingers, which is crazy. So it really depends what you play.
So then going back on the whole, you're saying they use their wrist to move their mouse. What about, I've heard, but I don't really know what their qualifications were. I don't know what their education was, but I've heard that mouse pads with the wrist rest are bad for gaming.
Yes and no. I'm not a fan of them. I know that there's actually been some content come out lately about keeping, like, I'm going to use my mouse as an example here. So if I have my Surface here and I have my mouse here, they kind of want you in this position. And I am actually a little bit skeptical about that, because I think in research, what we found, especially with issues like carpal tunnel and all that, which I can also talk about, carpal tunnel almost doesn't exist in gamers. It's actually a massive, massive red flag that like doesn't even, I've never ever seen true carpal tunnel in any pro I've worked with in the last 3 years. It's just this buzzword that the media likes to run with. Carpal tunnel is generally more used in like people who type all day.
I think that's why it was adopted, is because people are still stuck in the 90s where they're doing Excel spreadsheets. Yeah, they're thinking that's exactly what gamers are doing too.
Your wrist position in neutral is actually not straight. Your wrist position in neutral is at a 15 to 20 degree incline. It's extension. So the resting wrist position should be like this. You should try to adopt the resting wrist position when you play. So your mouse on a flat surface is basically neutral wrist position. That's how I generally like to play. It puts the least pressure on the tendons and nerves that run in the carpal tunnel and in the wrist itself. It also keeps the muscles in your forearm and then the flexors at the optimal length. So for a case example of why that matters, these muscles and these muscles work opposite of each other. It's like a pulley system. If I have these muscles like straight like this and I try to clench my fist, or if I have them stretched and I try to clench I can't even close my hand like this because these muscles are so tight, right? It's the same way that if my hand's all the way back here, it's also really hard to actually grip anything with strength because these muscles are too stretched. So what you want is an optimal relationship between those two groups of muscles, and that happens to be in the neutral wrist position. So if you're ever like lifting weights at the gym or deadlifting or anything, and you keep your wrist totally straight, you'll find you actually have a little bit less power than if you're like this. This is the optimal length of the force relationship between those two groups of muscles. So, I mean, that's really convoluted, but what I'm trying to say is that the amount of force that each of these groups of muscles is at its best when you're in a slightly extended position and in that neutral wrist position. So you should try to adopt that. That's why I don't really like people bracing it like this, because actually what this does is it increases strain up here, and then it forces these muscles to not work quite as well as they should. Or it increases the imbalance, basically. I'm a big fan of just staying in neutral as much as possible.
So do you rub your wrist like along your mouse pad then?
Yeah. I mean, and
okay,
I have
cool. it. So I'm not bad for doing that. That's awesome.
I do that. I mean, I have it set up too. So the armrest is in line with my mouse pad and my desk. So my elbow, my forearm, my mouse is all in a straight horizontal line. That's how you can optimally reduce the amount of stress on your entire arm. It's completely supported.
No, that's awesome. That's sick. That makes me feel so much better. Now I just need to get a second mouse pad because me being the fanboy that I am, I have the Neon Rider QCK light up mouse pad from Seal Series.
Dude, I'm the worst about that. I don't even have a mouse pad. I use this leather folder as my mouse pad. It works amazing. It's smooth. It picks up my my like laser or whatever. Like it's really, really nice. And I should actually get a mouse pad at some point, but like that's what I mean. Is like the equipment is really not that important if you have it set up right. And as long as it works for you, that comfort and having it work for you is really the most important thing. In the PC world, like you can't really buy performance beyond like the component parts. Like a different mouse is going to feel nice, but it's honestly not going to change too much unless you're cut it. So I don't like to change things in players unless they're having a problem. That's another thing I try to stress is don't change what isn't broken. If you're playing at a high level and you're not having pain, don't start trying to tweak things. Like, just kind of go with what it is. And if you have a problem, then we'll make adjustments.
I mean, my new sense isn't gonna make me cracked.
I mean, maybe you can watch you can watch Tens or whoever and like pick up their sense settings and see if that helps. But in the end, it's like
Does Tens still change his sense like every other week? And he's like, guys, I found it.
Yeah. He's I've actually worked with him a little bit. He's a funny kid. I worked with him when he was in CS:GO though, before he switched to Valorant.
Okay, sure.
He was Cloud9's prodigy kid. They really liked him and what he was going to bring to that team. And so even when they disbanded that CS:GO roster, the one with it was the last team Automatic was with, right? So they let Automatic go, they let Rush go, they let Daps, Kusta, that whole roster, when they released all of them before they brought in the South African team.
Before they brought in ATK?
ATK, yeah. Before they brought those guys in, it was like Tens was the only guy they kept because
because he was making content after Daps went to Gen G.
Yeah, but also is because the management was like, look, this kid's like a prodigy. He's going to be the future, and so they were willing to let the entire team go, but they wanted to keep Tens. And then he switched to Valorant, and and you look at it, what he did in Valorant. Obviously, it's a different type of game, but he was like arguably the best player in Valorant for the last year. Like, he's insane.
He is incredibly good. I genuinely wonder why he ended up moving over to, obviously still a lot of Valorant content, but just making content.
I can't speak for him. I haven't talked to him, but I imagine it had a lot to do with the team that he was brought in to play Valorant with were a lot of his friends, and a lot of them got, Shinobi got released, and he probably just felt that burnout of competitive grind. The team wasn't doing well. They didn't qualify for First Strike, which I think was a big deal. And so I think he was just like, I want to take a step back from competitive for a little bit, see what I can do. And then, he's
run the ACU route.
He's got a huge following. Like, when it comes down to it, like, you're 19-year-old kid and you're making this much money, like, content's hard to ignore. Like, if someone's going to pay you quadruple your salary overnight to play the same game and not have the stress and not have people yelling at you and not have, all the shit talk on Twitter and all that, like, it's a hard sell, and even with his Switch, people were giving him crap because they're like, oh, he never even accomplished anything in his career. And you're like, the kid's 18, 19, just let him be. Like, he's making a career move, It's actually, in my opinion, smarter. Like, what if he stayed in competitive and never won anything for 3 years and then basically burned out? Like,
dude, I can't ever be mad at somebody that moved over to Valorant, because it's like, they move over early, they're getting that bag. Yeah, go chase it, man.
Yeah.
Do what's best for you. It's like, it's like when Swag got signed to T1. He was the first pro Valorant player, and the game wasn't supposed to come out for 2 months at that point.
Yeah.
And
and he was a prodigy. I mean, he had a slightly different.
He was the original prodigy.
He had a different situation though, because he couldn't play CS.
Him and basically all of T1 was just Die by Power, except for what was it? Dazed didn't end up getting signed by anyone.
I mean, the thing I hate the most about CS is that Valve is so willing to destroy their own ecosystem to prove a point. Like, you take your best players and you vac ban them for their lives. Like, why? And it's not like he was directly doing it. The organization was at fault. Fine him. It's like any other sport. If Tom Brady gets caught cheating, what do? You suspend him for 4 games and then you let him. He's still your best player. Like, it's wild to me that they're willing to basically sabotage their entire ecosystem to make a point. Like, it's ridiculous.
The only one that I had the only kid that I'm iffy on them banning from majors would probably be Jampy, because he, I don't think that iBuyPower should have been banned from all majors or anything. That was a travesty in my opinion.
Yeah.
But then Jampy, I don't know, his story's never sat right with me. I'm like, I
think it depends on the nature of the situation. Like, if someone's racist and homophobic and all this and just being a terrible person online, okay, ban them.
They don't mean like the Depth Esports crew?
Yeah. They don't deserve to have a platform at that point. But if someone is caught cheating, yes, that's a huge offense. Yes, they should lose all their winnings for that event or whatever. They should be banned from a future event. You can't ban them from ever playing again. Like, maybe it's also the fact that your game has so many exploitable bugs in it. Like, how about that?
37 coaches.
How about you fix your own game first before you start? You can't you can't blame 37 coaches for creating a bug in your game. That's your fault. You were the ones that allowed this to happen, really.
Valve isn't focused on fixing bugs. They're focused on fixing their cases.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
skins.
Valve is focused on focused on Dota 2.
Yeah, let's not even get into the whole joke of a players association that CS has. It's so bad. It's not even for the players. It's for Valve, but
it's absolutely a mess.
Yeah, this is why I think, and so my big bullish reason for being so on top of Valorant and League and all that is because of Riot. And I know Riot's had a lot of negative media lately, especially with the sexual harassment stuff and all that. But if you look at what Riot does as a company and the way that they structure their competitive format, they are so about parity at the competitive level. They want to make this as fair of an experience as possible. You can't cheat in League. Like you just can't. Like the anti-cheats are so good. Like, I mean, the second you do it, you're just gone. Like you're banned immediately. It's crazy. Like it's a highly competitive and it's a highly toxic environment. But in the end of the day, nobody ever goes and was like, "Oh, you're hacking." Like that never comes up in the chat. It's always like, "Oh, you're a troll or you're inting or you're a terrible player and I hate you." But it's never like, "Oh, you're hacking. Clearly you're hacking." Because I've seen hacks one time in the last 3 years since I've been playing. It was clearly hacking and I reported and the guy got banned. Like Riot actually messaged me and like, "Yeah, your report was valid and whatever." But I've only ever seen it one time. And the way they did it was they went to I've read some article on it. They went to their source coding and they figured out a way to like keep that, like, I guess, locked out from any outside sources or something. Like it's called a kernel. And so they basically, anything that changes the kernel, they can identify right away and they will just wipe that whole thing out. It's crazy. And so clearly
they try and go there though. That's
like the technology.
The technology part, that's kind of like something that I can do. Like why would anybody even? I mean, I can somewhat understand like why somebody would want to go into the kernel, but like that's like you're on your own. Like if you're doing that, like nobody's really gonna help you. Like because if you go there, if you go deep into, because the kernel is like the base, that is the foundation, and if you try to mess with that, they're gonna know. Right,
and I think that's how their anti-cheat works. Is it goes from the bottom up. And so there's actually no way to hack that game. And, I think they're playing it in Valorant and, there was a wave of like there's been VODs, or like replays of streamers like, "Oh, this dude's clearly hacking." And literally in the middle of the game, it's like so-and-so is dropped from this game due to a cheat ban or something. And the game resets and they just play in a new lobby. And it's like in middle of game, they'll just ban the dude. Like
that's amazing. That is amazing.
I mean, this is all happening too during the time when Warzone, this last 2 months with Warzone is just rampant cheaters.
Oh God.
Like, they refuse to fix it, which is insane to me. Like you have a multi-billion-dollar game that people are literally asking you, "I want to play your game, but I can't play it because everyone's cheating." And you can't just shut it down? Like, come on.
I remember, what was it? My best cheater experience in Counter-Strike was guy gets vac banned middle of the match. It's Cash, so it makes sense that he was cheating.
Yeah.
Cash is the new cheater's paradise because you can shoot through everything on the new Cash. And suddenly, next round, he's back. We're like, what? And then he gets kicked again. Yeah. And then he's back. Kicked again and back. And he was back every round after that. Like he just kept like rage spamming on the reconnect button.
Wow.
And it like overloaded the client side, so it let him back in.
That's I think another problem with CS is that their engine is so old that it's so exploitable.
This is something I've also read too, is that actually if you look at the coding for CS, they haven't changed it since the original game.
Yeah.
They just keep patching stuff and adding more. So it's this Frankenstein monster of like a code source. It's like just so complicated.
Yeah, because it was just a mod of Half-Life, and so like if you create a game off of a mod and don't change the source code from that, you're gonna have some problems.
Yeah, like I don't understand why they have so much money. Like just secretly behind the scenes for the next year, rebuild the whole game. Like you have everything. You have everything you need to make it a functioning version of CS that people will enjoy. And you can make the graphics all nice. You remove all the bugs, collision errors, all that stuff, and it would be great. And literally the pros wouldn't have to transition at all. It'd be the exact same game, but coded right and like, secured.
Oh, you don't know? They've broken records for how many people have been playing the developers version of Counter-Strike. We hit a massive peak, all-time peak, 5 people in the dev build at one time. I think they're finally playing against bots.
Oh wow. Jeez.
I don't know, man. They've been like talking about Source 2 for so long at this point. And it was like a year ago where, oh geez, that was back when Egg was around. I miss Egg. I miss Egg. But he kept saying he was like Source 2's coming, within the next year. And if July rolls around and Source 2 isn't around, I bet you that there's going to be so many mad gamers.
Yeah. Yeah.
The technology part of it is just what for me. It's like why can't you just keep things updated? Because there's always going to be people trying to find exploits. That's with any type of software. Like people have been. That's just since software's been around. People have been trying to find bugs in it, and so like I don't know why aren't these companies on top of their own code? That's what I just don't understand.
Any competitive game.
Yeah.
When will Valve figure out that glass bottles don't bounce?
That's also that would change the whole game though if you can't bounce it. Anyway, I do have to get running. My fiance just texted me and she's like, "All right, what are you doing now?" Like it's been an hour and a half. But I really appreciate you guys chatting with me. It's been a great time.
I appreciate you having agreeing to be with us. The small podcast that we have.
I appreciate you. Yeah, I mean, like I said, my Twitch channel is just starting, so I totally get it. I'm all about supporting small content creators and especially small business owners. I hope you guys do well. Yeah.
Hey, we really appreciate it, man. You make sure to take care.
We'll do. You too. All right. If you guys need anything, reach out. You have my contact. Just feel free to message me. All right.
Sounds good.
All right.
Take care. Night. Stay safe.
Bye.
And then there were two.
Switched over to our other overlay. That was really good to have. Really nice to have him. How did you even reach out to him?
Oh man. So I found him through the Esports subject on Twitter. I was about to talk about this, and then my internet was like, "Oh no, no, you don't get to share. Sorry." No, I reached out to him after about 2 months of following him on Twitter because I really liked what he was, putting out. Saw that he was, in the games. Saw his Twitter bio, and I was like, "Hey, maybe we can talk." And it all ended up working out pretty well.
How'd you end up finding him in the first place? Just on Twitter?
Yeah, through the Esports.
Subject. That's how you found
the subject Esports. Okay. Yeah, and he was talking about something. I don't remember what it was.
I mean, because I
saw his tag and it said DPT, and I was like, "Is that what I think it is?" Because his tag on Twitter, for those of you that don't know, is I believe it's what Jordan.
Yeah,
Tsai
I had it up as Jordan Tsai DPT is what it was.
Yeah. And so I went there, looked at everything, and I was like, "Oh, that's sick. Love that." So I followed him, wanting to see what all kind of stuff he would tweet out. And it was just, I reached out a couple weeks ago. I was like, "Hey, would you be willing to come on?" And he said, "Sure." So,
a pretty cool guy, and I do appreciate both him agreeing to come on and also you. Because anytime we have an opportunity to learn from anything, and especially you, because he's basically what you are. Like
he's my dream.
You are an esports fanatic who also really loves the physical sciences and athletic training, physical therapy, and I don't really know the actual technical term for. I just group these into life science.
Kinesiology.
Yeah, I just group it into like life sciences because I think like I have there's physical sciences and there's life sciences. I'm more the physical sciences, you're the life sciences. So that was something that you could really identify with, and also like really keep going, keep the conversation going into it. It's something that you could learn from too. I didn't realize that man's like 35 though, 34. He does not look
a day over.
No, he looks like he was like 28 or something like that, or 26.
Yeah. That's wild. And he's a veteran.
Yeah, and unfortunately I didn't really get to ask him about that because I saw I had to look him up both last night and earlier today because I wanted to make sure I was getting everything right. He was in the military from 07 to 08. And I wanted to know. I wanted to ask what he did. Like, was he an army medic or what? Or so I don't really know. But really interesting guy. And unfortunately, we weren't able to talk with him for much. I wonder if he'd even be able to, if he'd agree to come on again, because there's so much we could talk with this guy.
Oh yeah,
there's so much we could talk with him.
This guy is. Hey man, tonight we're the Titled Qualified Podcast.
Yeah, that was, we have these, fun, just dick around streams, but we also have these educational streams. That's kind of how we wanted to have when we were starting this podcast. We wanted to have things, we have the fun days, but we also have the things that we could learn something, or our viewers can learn something from us, or whoever we have on it. So like, hopefully this opens up the floodgates of who we can have on further. And yeah, because I would like to have a music, if we're on the topic of therapy, because it's physical therapist, I know a music therapist, and I'm interested in seeing, like, how does that work? How does that all? Because this music therapy is nothing. I don't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about. I didn't even know esports physical therapy even existed.
I know Astralis had started doing stuff similar to that. They brought in a sports psychologist and a personal trainer for all of their CS team, and that was when they really started skyrocketing with their success. Was when they started taking themselves seriously, like an actual traditional sports team. And that was when they ended up winning Atlanta, and then they won everything else.
Yeah, it's really interesting how much goes behind, like, that we don't see. And you're more into the esports than I am.
Right.
So, but I'm sure you probably knew about, like, they have a sports psychologist, they have a physical therapist. The book club thing was like, that was mind blowing. I wonder if because it makes sense though, because they kind of are a family. They're with each other 8 hours a day. I wonder if they even have their own houses. I know Optic was like the pioneer of, like, team houses, if I remember correctly. So
they're with each other more than 8 hours a day. Most of the time, they live with each other. I know that they don't currently. But Cloud9 CSGO previously had a team house. I know that their League of Legends has a team house. League of Legends, you'll see a lot of team houses because it's franchise and it's in a specific spot all the time. So they're just like, they're going to move here, whatever. Cloud9 was known for having their team house. Right now they're an international roster, so it's a little different.
Yeah, you can't really live in you can't live in that one big house that stretches across the Atlantic.
Yeah, what with them having a player in the European Union,
it's probably like Eastern Europe too. So
it's ESA tag, so he'd be Denmark.
Yeah, so
he's a Dane.
Dane.
Played for Astralis, so he's a Dane.
Yeah, I forget what actually, like, Astralis originated from. I always forget. For some reason I want to say Poland, but that's VP. VP was Poland.
Yeah, VP was Poland. The Versplau.
Yeah.
They no, Astralis is Denmark, and, like, I think they said 3/4 of all Danish CSGO players have played for Astralis.
Because are they the only team then? Maybe. I mean, I think Astralis had a really good. But the E League Major 2017 Atlanta they ran a really interesting story highlighting basically the VP organization and then Astralis organizations, like, basically their home countries. Like, really, gaming is so big over there. That is exactly what they do. Like, it's just this massive thing. I think maybe because the only actual, like, physical sport they have is probably soccer,
and I think that they play field hockey.
Yeah, and that's the issue with America, is that we have all these standardized traditionalist sports, basketball, baseball, football. Yeah, so that it's such a problem. It's such a problem to esports, because so many people have grown up watching traditional sports, and that when they're older, they don't really understand it. So, and I can definitely tell you that my dad probably didn't understand what was going on, or the appeal behind me watching a CS major on Twitch in the living room TV. But it's something that I hope that people really. And we have a backlog episode about us, primarily you talking about esports, because
I'm thinking about esports.
Because I was away from esports for a while. Speaking of esports, I was really surprised that you didn't wear your FaZe hoodie today.
Dude, I have it back there. That's my Ghost hoodie.
Yeah, I was surprised you didn't have it on, but
But I've got three face hoodies that are currently out of the closet, and 2 of them are in the wash.
At least you're doing laundry. That's good.
Yeah,
it's a nice thing. But
Dr. I do believe that it's time for us to wrap up.
It is actually. It's 10:49, and
I hope that everybody really enjoyed this week's episode. I have no anime of the week this week. I do have an anime of the week. I recently watched the original Japanese version of Spirited Away. Incredible stuff. Actually, incredible stuff. Miyazaki is one of the absolute greatest storytellers of all time. The way that he uses silence and environment is just incredible. Highly recommend all of his original Japanese versions of every movie, except for Ponyo. Ponyo, you can definitely watch the Studio Ghibli version and get pretty much the exact same experience, like genuinely. Which I think is kind of nice, actually. Ponyo's a very fun, lighthearted movie. I also haven't been looking at chat this whole time because my internet's been taking such a fat dump that I was like, get off of everything. So I apologize to those one of you that are in chat.
We just had a message from Glazy saying, USA, USA, USA.
But Jason, do you have any final thoughts?
I have final thoughts. I forgot to bring this in beforehand because I was too busy working on the intro that we didn't run. Because I didn't know how it was all going to go. I'll be right back real quickly. I got to run to my kitchen. It's not going to take long at all.
Oh my God. What a doof.
Told you it wasn't going to take long.
God.
I live by myself, kind of really easy to just get into the kitchen. We got if you're in the Midwest, you are probably freezing. It is going to be super, super cold this weekend.
I'm incredibly cold right now.
Yeah, I turn my heater off whenever we do the shows just because the fan is so loud because it's right outside of my door. And I just don't want that being picked up. But it's it's gonna be like the negative. I think like a high of like maybe -2 or something like that on Valentine's Day. So if you are one of those people that is lucky enough to have a partner to cuddle up with, what my hometown meteorology would say, snuggle advisories in effect, especially that day. Just make sure you use a condom because no babies.
Yeah,
no babies.
When we're busy cuddling on the couch, let's use a condom.
Yes. Oh, just wrap yourself in just saran wrap. That's just, but make sure you open your face just because you don't want to die from suffocation.
Be too careful.
But stay safe. Be warm. I know this year is not this year. I mean, this year's kind of been still hard. It's been a little bit of an extension of 2020, but specifically with the whole last year and how that's all in. I understand it's going to be a little bit hard for some people this weekend, not just because of the cold, but Valentine's Day is always one of those things like, oh, all these, you see commercials for it everywhere. You see, if you go to a grocery store, you just got Valentine's Day sale and their ads are all red and everything like that. Take care of yourself. I bought this smiley face cookie cake that I'm going to absolutely demolish this weekend because I am alone and by myself. But that's okay because I will be watching the Daytona 500 on Sunday. I know you give NASCAR a lot of shit. I'm actually a NASCAR fan, so.
Hey, don't forget Blast Premier Spring Groups. Group 3 is this week.
Where can we watch that?
Starts tomorrow. Team Liquid, Natus Vincer, FaZe Clan, and MIBR. So you've got 3 incredible orgs and MIBR.
Wow, really giving them shit. All right. Where can we watch it though? Is it going to be streamed anywhere, or is it only going to be on
Twitch.tv/Blast Premier?
Okay, nice.
You can also find it on their YouTube channel.
Nice.
They'll be live streaming it. I prefer the YouTube feed. The YouTube feed is usually a lot cleaner. They don't have chat.
It's more optimized.
It's been around longer. Chat enabled on it. On top of the fact that I also recommend all ESL streams go to YouTube because their chat's a lot smarter and you can actually have good discussions about why NACS is a victim of circumstance and people actually understand it. Look, man, when you only have like 2 to 3 tier 1 rosters in the entire dadgum you're not going to get a lot of good practice, are you? That's why NACS is really bad online.
Oh, yeah.
They're doing better now. A lot better now.
I wonder if NACS would be better if our internet infrastructure was better. But that's a topic for another day. I can go down the rabbit hole with that.
All right, folks. With that, we really appreciate all of you watching live at twitch.tv/crunchbar33. We really appreciate all of you watching on YouTube after the fact. Another thank you to Dr. Jordan Tsai for coming on the show and talking with us about just whatever, putting up with our crap and my awful internet. And most importantly, stay safe, mask up, stay warm, and roll clones.
And roll credits. We'll see you guys next week. Stay safe. Bye-bye.